What about when we were seeing Tiger King? Were you picturing yourself singing those songs too?
No, I'm so glad you brought that up though, because everyone's talking about Tiger King. I love Tiger King.
Yeah, you do. I had to have an intervention with you, remember?
Did you?
I was like, how many memes have you posted today about Tiger King?
Yeah, I did post a lot of memes.
And we went through it.
You didn't even want to watch the show, which is not weird because almost every show or movie, if you don't know what it is, you're not that into it. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to watch it anyways. And you're kind of just hanging out. And then always you get into the show.
Yeah.
Always. Even like Stranger Things, you were like, oh, this is, at one point you were like, this is scary. Can you turn it off? Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I don't, just
like
not right now.
Like
stuff? Just, this isn't the moment for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, what? Like, so later will be? And you're like, just, can you turn it off? And I did. And then I never thought you would get into that show. And then like by episode 3, you're like, oh my God, can we watch Stranger Things? And so you like that with every show. So that's how, Shameless. Remember when we watched Shameless? You were like,
it took me like 3 years.
You're all, this show gives me anxiety. We can't watch it. And I'm like, we'll just like push through. Like we all have weird feelings. Can we just like work through them?
I don't know why. There's just certain movies or things that like make me feel good and things that don't make me feel good. So like when I was watching Tiger King, the whole time like my stomach was hurting.
But what in life when you have that feeling, and we're totally going to dive really deep into Tiger King, by the way, but when you get that feeling, do you always have to honor it?
Yeah.
But don't you think that struggle makes you feel weird? And if you just back out every time or don't do something that feels weird because struggle feels weird, don't you think you might miss out on an opportunity for something?
Yeah, I definitely think that you have to like push yourself. But I think because I'm so sensitive about things and it's hard for me to let go of that feeling, I guess. Like when I'm watching something and I know that it's like maybe people are getting mistreated or animals are getting mistreated or things like that, then the overall feeling is still there with me. Like I can feel that it's like, okay, this is not a good thing. This doesn't feel right.
So it's probably a good thing that you're with me then, or else you wouldn't have any of these experiences.
Yeah.
Like the Tiger King. Because you ended up watching it and you thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
So you're welcome.
I thought it was really cool.
I don't know how else to tell you this. You kind of owe me one.
Yeah, I owe you.
I'm just kidding. The Tiger King was cool to me because I think that when I started watching it, it was, I've been reflecting on Tiger King. I've been self-reflecting because I was trying to figure out why is it so popular, right?
Yeah.
Super popular. And why did I like it so much, right? And so I started thinking like, what it meant to me. And it sounds like I'm on this deep level, but I'm not. I really just was thinking like, well, why is it so intriguing? Why does everyone like it?
Yeah.
And I think reality TV is kind of diluted, right? We have all these shows, and not to pick on the Kardashians, but they're probably the most famous ones, right? So like a show like the Kardashians or a show like The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, or any of these reality shows, right? The one with the hills. The hills have eyes.
The Hills. Oh,
the regular Hills.
Yeah.
The Hills. The show The Hills.
Yeah.
Or any reality show. We all know what reality shows is. You watch them because you can relate to them, right? But there's times where like you're like, this is overly. I don't want to say staged because it's not, right? If you watch The Bachelor, they're not reading from a script. This isn't a movie scene. Right. But you do feel like there's a narrative, and you do feel like there's kind of like they put together these things on purpose, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it feels like you want more, but we still love it because it's reality, right? And so we're like, we keep watching it. And the Tiger King was like about as authentic as you can get, right? All those characters there was no benefit for them to act that crazy, but they did. And they were like, that was them. Like that was like, one was this flamboyant, crazy, wild person that wants all these people hanging out with them. You know what I mean? There's another person that's a little bit quieter. There's a person that's money hungry. You know what I mean? There's all these authentic people, right? Some of them are weird. One of them might have killed her fucking husband. We don't even know. But I think that's why I think everyone else liked it so much, is it's fun to watch this show where people are being so authentic and real, and there's no benefit to it. They're not trying to be famous. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're just like think that they're gonna like maybe like be in this documentary probably. And so they just were all themselves. And it was fun watching all the interviews afterwards because it's like they're the same people. You ever see a show, like a reality show, and then you follow them on Instagram, and then you follow a few of the Bachelor people or Bachelorettes, and they're a little different. Or you see them, we talked about this, you see like on The Bachelor is a perfect example. You see them on that show, and then you see them on The Bachelor in Paradise, and then it's like they're kind of different. And you're like, oh, I like them better.
Yeah, or I didn't know that side of them. Yeah.
Yes. And so it's like we've seen it a million times on different shows, different things, different people, movie stars. You see them in the movie, and then you see them in an interview on Conan O'Brien, and they're way different. You're like, what?
Yeah.
And so, but with those people from the Tiger King, I would see their interviews, and it's the same person. It's like a continuation of that show.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's what I thought. That's the reason why I like the show. And I thought like it was just wild, and I got sucked in. Every episode, I'm like, there's no way. I remember at one point, but like episode 4, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like, how much more crazy stuff could happen?
Yeah.
And more crazy stuff happened.
Yeah.
What's your feeling on it?
I agree with that. I feel like it was pretty refreshing just to have people be themselves and authentic. I think that's always cool. I wonder if us having so much downtime right now, or a lot of people having more downtime, kind of was one of the reasons why so many people watched it, or I think that contributed to it. But I think the show itself is really, I don't know. I think that it just kind of like you keep wanting to know what's going to happen. Like, what else can happen, you know?
Yeah. It was just different.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think the fact that everyone's quarantining at home made it bigger. I feel like it would have been a hit either way.
Yeah.
Because we've had Netflix hits over the last few years when this COVID thing wasn't a deal.
Yeah.
And so I think people would have been sucked into it the way they were sucked into Bird Box. Remember when everyone was watching that?
Yeah.
But I agree. It was super duper amplified just because everyone was just home. And then when it's on Facebook, it's so powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
Who do you think was your favorite character in the show?
It's hard to say. The animals? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
You would say that. You're all the tiger number 13. He's my favorite tiger.
I like.
They never pet him. The whole time, no one pet him.
I don't know. That's a good question. I thought all of them were good in some way, and all of them had something that maybe I didn't really connect with.
Here's a good way to figure out who your favorite character in that show is.
Okay.
Take them out. Whoever it is, and what would the show be like? Like Doc Antle. Take him out. Pretty good show still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the Carole Baskins? God damn it. Carole fucking Baskins. That bitch, Carole Baskins. Take her out. She's a pretty important part of the show. She would be second for me. But it's for sure Joe Exotic. Like in my head, he did the dumbest stuff.
Yeah.
He was which when I say authentic, this is the pure. A lot of people are authentic. He's so authentic. He committed crimes. Like he's just like, I think I'm gonna get away. Like he just like did his own thing and he didn't care. He had no to me, he was my favorite character because he made it go. If he ever does get out of jail, which he probably won't, he's sentenced for a long time. And he had a show. Tell me you wouldn't watch that.
Yeah, I probably would.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
But maybe if it wasn't tigers.
Yeah, maybe if it wasn't anything to do with him not taking care of animals.
Yeah, what if I seriously doubt he would not do that again.
Yeah.
I agree, but here's the thing: is they all did some terrible stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's what makes the show so cool too. Is there's this wild side of it where everyone's just acting crazy and wild and blowing stuff up, and there's all this drama, and someone might have murdered their husband, and then other people hate her, and there's the online TV show, kind of like what we're doing now, where they're just hating on Carole Baskin the whole time, and it's so entertaining. And then there's this other side of it where you really do feel bad for the animals, at a lot of points. And then there's other times where the animals are ripping people's arms off and stuff. And then you feel bad for the people. And then you realize that girl, she did care, but she was about as good as you can be for someone who got their arm ripped off.
Yeah.
She was back at work in a couple days, right?
She was super loyal, I felt. I felt like she was loyal to Joe.
Mm-hmm.
So she didn't want to make a big deal out of it. And so she went back to work just so that it kind of
think about if she had that documentary would have been over. That would have been it. They would have closed that place down and he would have gone to jail or at least financially been drained. He ends up being financially drained because of his other beefs. But think about that. Think of that one part of the show. That was episode 2, I think. The beginning of episode 2, I think they're this girl gets her arm ripped off. And that's why you're what? What's going on right now? If she just she doesn't come back in a week and she presses charges and makes a big publicity thing out of it, which she could have done.
Yeah.
There's no more show. That would have just been a 2-episode documentary about tiger, and then someone got their arm ripped off, and then the documentary's over. But because she didn't say anything and was loyal, like you said, the show continued and they did all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy that she went to work 5 days after her amputation.
Yeah. Well, I think it was 7. It was 5 days. Yes, you're right. because it was 7 days total. Because I watched an interview today.
Oh, okay.
But she didn't get it amputated till day 3. So you're right. So day 1 and 2, they were telling like she was in the ICU kind of thing, and then they amputated it at the beginning of day 3, and then 5-day recovery, and then she was back at work within 7 days.
Yeah.
Of the whole thing happening, but 5 days from the amputation. That's crazy. That's crazy.
That is really crazy.
She was back at work smiling, just getting it, taking care of tigers. If I was to any animal, sharks, doesn't matter. If I'm surfing and a shark eats my arm, I'm not surfing anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not. Or if I work in a tiger place and the tiger bites my arm up, I'm not going around tigers anymore.
Yeah.
Just not.
Yeah, I think it's because of maybe the setting of how everybody that was working for Joe kind of was lost in some way, and they found some type of purpose there.
Everyone kind of was, huh?
Yeah, and so I think that really was probably the reason why a lot of people stayed around and like were so loyal, because like they felt connected into what that feeling of, like being a part of something. I think that's really, it's a special feeling. And when you don't have that, you feel like you're missing something.
They did say that a lot of the people that worked there lived there. Like they lived in like, I mean? Like I think like 90% of the staff like lived like on there.
Yeah.
And then the camera crews, because they were filming a reality show, which remember ends up burning down all the footage in the alligator pen. So and I didn't understand that till I saw some of the interviews afterwards. He was filming a show. That main guy that you see in Australia or whatever, he's just smoking cigarettes in that restaurant. Yes.
Yeah.
They hired him to film a reality show, which was supposed to replace that kind of internet show he did. And he said, I'll film your reality show if you also allow a second crew to film me filming a reality show, because I want a documentary. And I don't think people understood that, because I watched an interview with him with David Spade, and he was saying that's what burnt down. So when that thing burnt down and you're like, well, what are we watching? We're watching footage. That was the footage for his reality show. But the footage that the other guy was recording was to make a documentary about the whole thing. And that's what burnt up. So there's tons of stuff that never even came out that burnt up in that fire. And they say that they think that Joe Exotic burned it down himself because of the incriminating stuff, but also because that guy with the hat they got into an argument like days before, and he was pretty much saying like, you own the rights to your show, but I own the rights to the show, filming the show. And so it got weird, and that's why he burned it down. And I didn't really understand that in the show, but I understand it in the interview a little bit better.
Yeah, I think he burned it down for sure.
Yeah, I think he did too.
Yeah.
He's wild. That guy's wild.
He is really wild.
I love when the girl got her arm bit off and he walks into the like where they all buy like souvenirs.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not gonna lie, Tiger just bit a girl's arm off. If you guys want a refund, I'll get it to you. And like walks out with his paramedic shirt on. And that's when the famous scene was like, I'm never gonna financially recover from this.
Yeah. That was a crazy scene.
Could you imagine being in a souvenir shop and like the owner just comes in like, hey guys, listen up. Tiger just bit some guy's arm off. I'm gonna give you all refunds if that's cool. Let me know. And then he leaves. Like, what? What happened? Like back there?
I don't think I'd even want to leave the shop. I'd be like,
I would like if they got loose or something. Loose? Like I need more info. Like, is there like a mass? Are they running away? What's happening?
Yeah, it's crazy to think that if you live in an area, like kind of like country area, that your neighbor could have a tiger or like an exotic animal. I didn't realize that was legal.
I feel like they kept trying to debunk that. Like a lot of people were saying, the people on the show afterwards were saying like, it's not that way, but it really kind of is. Like if you really think about it, there's more tigers in captivity than there are in the wild. And I don't know if that's worldwide or just like, obviously there's not wild tigers here, but I don't know if it's like worldwide there's more in captivity than there is wild, or like there's more in captivity in America than there is in the wild. Either way, it's a lot of tigers that could, like, it's just like in like someone has.
Yeah.
Probably in Oklahoma, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
But it is kind of weird. The whole show, I'm just like, this is a thing. And I didn't understand the cub thing until towards the end. And I was like, what? Like, why would this be an issue? Like, I don't get the cub thing. And I started realizing like people like the cubs and cubs grow up. Because in my head, because I don't think I've ever seen a tiger in person. Have you?
Just at the zoo.
I don't think I've ever seen one at the zoo either. How was it when you saw the one at the zoo? Did it feel like the way they're describing, like there's something like it's an amazing creature that makes you feel powerful? And
No, but I think it's because I like all animals. So like, there's not anything.
where did you see a tiger? Like what zoo was it?
San Diego Zoo.
Was this like with some dude or?
My parents.
Oh, that's what I meant.
My brother.
I was like, I never went to a zoo. We've been together for a long ass time.
I don't know if they have some at Albuquerque too. I've gone to that zoo also.
I want to see a tiger now. But so as someone who's never seen one, when they were saying in the show, like, because I've never seen one, I was amazed in general. So I didn't understand that. I'm like, why would they not want big tigers? Like, because when I was thinking seeing a tiger, I want to see the biggest, baddest one. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what I thought. And then I didn't realize like a cub you could take a picture with and you could touch, and cubs are cute. And thinking about the masses, I could see how the mass amount of people would want to see a cub, and they would pay extra money to come up and touch a cub. Yeah. And it's a liability to have you come up and touch a full-grown tiger. And so it started making sense to me towards the end. And that's when I was like, I wonder what they do with the cubs. And I'm like, oh, like I see where this is going. And so I kind of knew they were going to get into like euthanizing at the end, or like touching on that a little bit. Yeah,
because I definitely think as they grow older, then it's harder to, I mean, I think once they take the babies, which I think that's sad, they take the babies away from the tiger, that way they can kind of like get them used to humans. I think that's what kind of domesticates them a little bit. But then I think it's still, you know, the liability because they're wild animals. Like they can do anything, you know? So I just feel like that part of it is what is kind of scary.
I didn't understand. Is that what they did? I wasn't understanding. So they took the cubs away. That makes total sense because they couldn't have a bunch of tiger cubs in like with multiple full-grown tigers, right?
Well, and I don't know for sure. They didn't say, but I just know usually like with dogs or, you know, anything, usually like the moms get really territorial of the babies. So I'm sure with tigers, I don't know a lot about tigers themselves, but I would assume that if they're around the baby, they're going to be territorial. So they become probably more aggressive.
But wouldn't they be more aggressive if you took all their babies away?
Yeah, but they might not understand it. Like, remember the part wherever like the tiger literally just had the baby and then like he's like pulling it.
He pulls it with the thing and then pulls it out from under the cage.
Yeah, so I don't think it gives like the tiger enough time to really like bond and realize like, oh, okay, this is like...
That's just a crazy thought.
Yeah, it was horrible. I don't know. That part was really hard for me. You're like... You're like, I didn't.
This is a bad time for a joke. I think when you really, really get into like the roots of it all, it is pretty bad. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And then every time you want to like the guy, you remember all the bad stuff he did, and you're like, oh, I can't like that guy.
Yeah.
But he was entertaining. It's okay like to say that, right? Because he was for sure entertaining, I think. But it doesn't make him a good person.
Yeah.
But everyone was entertaining. Like the husbands, he had 2 husbands. It turns out he had like 5. Like when I saw interviews afterwards.
Really?
Yes, like his whole life, like he had multiple like husbands. But that was the only time where I think he literally had multiple, like meaning more than one at the same time. But it was weird to see the wedding in the documentary. Mm-hmm. It seemed like I wish I remembered their names, right? Because the one kid, the taller kid that everyone liked, that was like everyone said that he was attractive. He's a big old strong guy. The one that ends up... Is
his name Tyler or no?
I don't remember. The one that ends up committing suicide. Mm-hmm. Or we both talked about if that was on accident or not. Mm-hmm. I thought it was on purpose, but watching the interviews afterwards, they think that maybe it was an accident.
Oh, really?
Because they labeled it as like they caught on film him accidentally shooting himself. But I guess he did play around like that a lot. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Either way, there's that kid, and then I kind of noticed in the scene where they're filming their wedding, I noticed that he wasn't that involved in it, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of off the bat, I was like, I don't know if he's really into men. But the other guy I thought was for sure, because he was like having a blast. And there's a scene where he's like, I like the pink camo, and he was embracing the whole thing. And it felt they were together for like 9 years. They're saying it.
Yeah.
So after the documentary, when he impregnates that girl.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. I hope no one listening to this like
right.
If you've already heard too much, because we're going to talk about it. So if you want to watch the show, come back to this because you should watch it all. But go watch the show real quick. But the other guy afterwards, when he went off and like he had a baby and was with that girl, and in the interviews afterwards and on David Spade, he was pretty adamant about saying he was never really married to him. He was never really into men. He was always in the way. And that threw me off because I felt like he was.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. So that's, again, another like moment in the show where you're like, wow, like
confused.
Yeah, it's like a weird scenario for there to be. Is that considered polygamy?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. A polygamous relationship in Oklahoma City, and I think it's actually legal in some states, right? I don't know if Oklahoma City is one of them. So I don't even know if they legally were even married, which he says he wasn't. The one guy does.
I don't think they were legally married.
Yeah, but it's a weird situation, and so that's just like another part of it that I was like, what the heck?
I know, that part was really interesting. I felt like whenever he talked about it, I feel like there was some type of like bond that he had with Joe, but I don't know if it was, I don't know. I think he has like some type of like bad feelings towards him. That's kind of what I got from it.
You can be in any sort of relationship, gay or straight, and have bad feelings for your ex.
Yeah.
And so I think like that part of it was kind of normal.
Yeah.
And so it was confusing for me to watch because I didn't understand it. And then afterwards, just to see all the stuff that the other people were saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was just like, whoa, like, I don't even know. Like, it's just a weird, misunderstood situation. You know what I mean? And then the fact that that was the part in the show that I started taking the show like extra serious, is the scene where they show him. They don't show him, but they show the other guy shooting himself, whether it was an accident or not. And they show the reaction of he's like
he was like the campaign manager.
The campaign manager for him running for president.
Yeah.
And governor, whatever the hell he did. Both, I think. But that scene to me was like, what? Like, you weren't, that was part, I remember you were on the couch with me and I was like, babe, what? Like, you were like, what? Like, it was just, that was a part for me that I thought I thought it was way more intense than what it got. I feel like there was like a moment and then it kind of went off. Yeah.
And I think it's probably because of the funeral. I feel like the funeral isn't very like.
Well, his speech was pretty cool. My favorite part is when he used to drag my balls on his face.
Didn't he call them like golden nuggets or something?
I don't remember. I totally want to rewatch it. He was like, I'll miss him the way when he used to put my ball sack on his face. And the mom is like crying. And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
and then he starts singing one of his songs.
And then they say that he's not even really singing. So I wonder if he was like lip singing.
Not at that part. But I have to rewatch it because there has been reports that come out that say that it for sure was not him singing. And so it which makes sense because I think everyone that heard those videos was like, oh, that guy's killing it. That's kind of good.
Yeah.
But he did sing at the funeral, and I remember that being good too. But maybe that was just my brain because we had seen all those videos of him killing it.
Yeah.
So I want to rewatch it because maybe he wasn't that good.
Yeah, maybe he wasn't. Or maybe he was just lip singing too. That would be horrible if he was. Yeah.
Well, I think
at
lip singing is fun.
But at a funeral?
Yeah, I feel like I'm on the show now. Like, Will, do you even realize what you're saying? Lip syncing at a funeral?
It's not karaoke, you know?
Yeah, well, obviously not at a funeral. So I don't care much about the lip syncing part. I think it's telling people or pretending you're putting on the image that you're the author behind it. I think was that part. But he has some bangers that Joe Exotic did. Some of the best diss songs in the world.
Yeah, he did.
So let's talk about Carole Baskin for a little bit. Because that was like episode 3 or 4. They don't introduce her, but they dive into her story about her husband, which was kind of like random again. That was another point of the show where I was like, what is going on right now? Did this like lady like kill her husband? And like, I think it's pretty obvious that she killed her husband. That's just how I feel. What do you feel?
Yeah, I think she might have. It's hard to say because I kind of feel like she didn't, but then I feel like she did. I don't know. It's hard to say because I feel like she like is sad about it.
Every time I find myself thinking she didn't, I think about all, like I remember and I go, oh, she had to have.
Yeah.
Because there's times I'm like, what if she didn't? You know what I mean? And then, but then I remember like her reactions to stuff. The weird will that says if he disappears as opposed to if he's dead.
Yeah.
And then the parts, what was the other one?
The sardine oil.
And then she had stole some guns from him like 2 days before he disappeared. Like she filed a report. There was domestic violence going on. They had a history of like these things going on. And then all of a sudden he disappears. And then when they throw out ideas and like, well, maybe like she like threw him in the meat grinder and fed him to the tigers. I'm like, that's genius. You know what I mean? Like that's like the perfect way to hide something up. And then she just told the cops like that he flew off to some country,
Yeah.
which would make sense if you have the money to do that kind of stuff. They'd be like, oh, that's where he's at. By the time they figure out that he's actually missing, that tiger's already eaten him. He's already pooped him out, and that's already moved on. So even if they came and like tried to like figure out and do like analysis of stuff, that stuff's gone. Like it's biodegradable. It's in the world. It's like she probably could have gotten away with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if anybody could, it would be her.
Why?
Because she had all the resources, you know? The tigers, her family.
If you... I don't even want to get too deep into this. Carole fucking Baskins got me over here trying to figure out some murder. Hey guys, if you enjoyed that clip, click on this link right over here to subscribe to this clip's channel. Or if you want to view the entire conversation, go ahead and click on this link over here to view the entire podcast. Bet you on the next one, guys.